And Bill, what's this piece of paper you handed me here? General fund fees of offices?
That's the revenue
Thank
for all
you.
JPs and hospitals.
Thank you,
That's since 2009.
And year-to-date is,
It's been deposited.
Carly,
is that a year-to-date, is that a 10-month period?
you're gonna follow up on that and see how that would work.
Is that a 10-month?
Liz
And
gets
then
a
I
white one,
14 really is 13 is projected.
and then
Yeah.
Bill gets the other white.
Okay,
14 is pretty much what 13 would be when it's on.
I got you, okay.
Thank you.
Morning, thank you.
Good afternoon, Your Honor and Commissioners. Ms. Urrutia just passed out a packet for you, and it's hot off the press. That's why we were running a little bit late. We were trying to make it color-coded, but we are requesting, we had requested a full-time position, and after crunching some numbers and meeting with Commissioner Inglesby, we have amended that request. Instead of requesting a full-time position, we're requesting that one of our positions, which is 30 hours, be increased to 40 hours, and then one position at 20 hours. But let me back up a little bit. The very first page that you're going to see is a comparison of the activity reports, what was brought in for September 2011 through August 2012 in comparison to September 2012 up to July 2013. If you look at the number of active cases, we're still needing another 4 months, September, October, November, and December for 2013. And if you look at those numbers, the active cases, and then if you add the new cases, and then along with the reactivated cases, when we say reactivated, meaning it had gone to collections and it has been brought back to our court, the individual was located and they're trying to get their license reinstated, and so they come back to the office and fill out a payment plan. And if you'll compare those numbers, you can see there's an increase. And the total of open cases, and again, in comparison from 2013 to 2012, we have exceeded that number of open cases, along with the civil cases. So if we add all the way down below the 14,757 plus the civil plus the truancy, we have a total of 15,748 active cases right now as of this month in comparison to last year. And that was a full year, and that was 14,793. So we have surpassed that number already of active cases. Then the revenue, down below, you see county. That is how much we have collected for the county via whether it's traffic, whether it's filing fees, whatever dollar amount has come into our office gets put into the county funds. And I estimated another $50,000 in addition to what has already been there, the $485,000 plus 135. In comparison to last year, we're going to surpass that amount as well. The state, the same thing. We're surpassing that amount.
Judge?
Yes, sir.
So what you're showing on your sheet here is the 485 figure, you believe to finish out the year, basing that off just activity that your office sees, that will add an additional $50,000
Times, I misinformed you, 50,000 times the 4 months that are still, because we're bringing in an average of $50,000 per month. So times, yes. Thank you for.
So you're projecting then at the end of the fiscal year, that, because your chart ends in July, so you're kind of
August, September, October, November, and December, 5 times 5. Yeah, because
Okay.
this is up to July, so we're still needing August, September, October, November, and December.
Right.
5 months. So the 50,000 times 5, because it's just an average in their months that
Right.
we're bringing in
If
65,000.
if it's okay, Judge, I think
Yes,
it would be
sir.
helpful for all of us. We're all working off, when we're looking at revenue coming into the county and activity coming into the county, that deadline of September the 31st.
Okay,
And so I think that would just be consistent with how we're seeing everything else coming through the county.
okay.
Is that correct, Auditor's Office, that would be?
So
right?
a fiscal year
Yes,
is what
ma'am.
we're looking
So-
at. So then
I
it would be
just,
the,
if you stopped in July, Judge, I would just add August, 50,000, if I
Okay.
hear you correctly, and
Okay.
September, 50,000.
correct.
If I'm hearing you correctly, then we'll stop there.
Stop,
and go on
October
next
1st.
year. Okay.
Correct. Yes, sir. Thank you.
So another $100,000 to the 485.
485, yes, sir. Yes, sir. And then walk-in that come into the office, whether they have a case there or not, in comparison to last year, the 3,743, we're at 5,149. Now, these are people that might have a case there, they might not. Now, once again, Commissioner Conley, you and I have had a discussion about, we have a window, people come and knock on our window and say, I need to be somewhere, can you check and see where I need to go? And as I mentioned to Commissioner Anglesby, security is there, but they don't have a computer up in the front. Now, if they have their paperwork and they say, okay, we're looking for county clerk's office, they'll direct them to the county clerk's office. But if they say, I'm supposed to be in court, I don't know where, I don't have any paperwork, those cases exist.
Yes, ma'am.
And so they're included in this number of people that have come to the window. And so once again, there is an increase.
Judge, can we stop there for a second? Because
Yes, sir.
it's not something unique to your office at all. It's something that I know as one court member I'm struggling with, and I think my colleagues are as well. You just laid out for us a revenue, a case load, a revenue stream, and then kind of just constituent services, people coming
Correct.
out to the desk.
Yes, sir.
When we're looking at a projected $585,000 in revenue coming out of your office, and then we look back on historical figures of what comes from us from our auditor's office and where we are year to date coming out of your office, I'm not understanding that.
It's a big difference.
Big difference.
We were just handed,
We're
Judge,
showing about 300.
Actual numbers.
And that's
Oh,
also what's in our budget, Judge.
Do you not have the activity report? Is it not on there? It should be the very first page, the activity report.
Well, the deal is there's a difference between.
No.
Judge, you may
No.
hear, why don't you, this is what we received from the auditor's office, and that's,
And Bill, what you're just explaining to
The
me,
numbers that they're
the
saying they
14
can
estimate is if it
generated.
includes the 2 months to come, it's an estimate of those 2
from
months.
the auditor's.
So,
So
So where
that's why
she's
the
saying
numbers are so
485, you are saying 300.
no, she said 585.
585, and you're saying 300.
Okay, I'm not sure
So
where
we-
this, I
We
can
need to
show
get
you.
together and reconcile.
If y'all, yeah, because that's a big, that's,
And I want to make clear that,
Commissioner, right behind it, and I'm so glad that we, even though my clerks told me we were cutting down some trees and
Yes, ma'am.
adding this extra reports in here.
Hopefully
If
not
you will
increasing
look
trees.
at these reports, this is generated by the computer. I didn't pull these numbers out of the air.
no, ma'am.
There's reports that substantiate those figures right behind it. And I hated to do that, but for the
No, I'm-
reason that I wanted to show where I arrived
Where
at
we're
those numbers.
interested, I don't want to give the misimpression that I feel like you're misleading this court.
No, I
That's not-
understand, sir.
That's not the case. We're having this problem across the board with JPs and constables, that what comes out of y'all's offices doesn't match up with what's coming through the auditor's office, therefore it's not matching up with what the judge puts in his recommended budget in revenue, of course, which drives a lot of our expenses. So there's something missing there, and I don't know what that
Well, I just
I don't
hope
know
it's
what
not
that
one
is.
more report that gets generated.
Yes, ma'am.
Because we have a list in the back of the number of reports that we're having to do monthly, and this is why I'm asking for
Right.
the additional staff. But maybe perhaps Mr. Herzog and I and Ms. Wellman, we can get together, or HR, and look at those numbers, but that we pulled them out from what's generated by the state.
Because your numbers show historically, Judge, that your numbers as far as revenue into the county coming out of your office have consistently gone down
Oh, no.
since 2011.
Oh, no.
2009 was 241, 210, 322, 223, 2011, 336, 2012, 283, 2013, year-to-date, 246. Now, again, just to prove my point, all of your colleagues are the exact same way.
Yeah.
So there's something that's
Wow.
not mixing.
Actually, hers is a little better than some.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, I will love to sit down and see, and Ms. Tuttle, maybe that's something we're going to also have to look at because of the deposits that are made. I mean, this is money that goes into the bank, it's not money
Yes,
that
ma'am.
stays in the safe.
Sure, no, I understand that. And that's, but it makes it really difficult for us to
Yeah.
do our job on those. We're not talking $15,000 here in difference. We're talking-
This is big bucks, as my grandson says.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, big difference. I'm not sure where
But
that
all
discrepancy.
constable and JP offices have been that way, Judge, just not
Okay,
just not
well, that
your
makes me feel better. Now, if, in the color blue, as I had stated here just a few minutes ago, you're going to see the number of reports that are being generated monthly. Along with, now we have Nova Time sheets that are being done electronically, and the reason that I've asked for an increase for two of the clerks is because of all the extra work that is being done by them. Now, this is not work that's going to be handled by the new clerk. This is work because there are numbers that go into the system, there are numbers that get evaluated. I have to make sure that the individual knows what is going into these reports, because they do get evaluated, whether it's monthly, every other month. We never know when they're going to show up, the state. And so these are the reports that are being generated. And this is also one of the justifications for this full-time position that I had requested, that now it's been trimmed down to 20 hours a week, being because we're going to increase our 6-hour person to 8 hours. So we're looking at from 30 to 40 and 20 additional hours. And I've given you a breakdown. If you look in the color green sheet, you're going to see that it says positions. I don't have, if you'll give me a minute, because I don't have it color-coded for myself, so bear with me. I'll find it here in just a second. Okay. Justification for new position and a salary increase. It's also a breakdown of the number of cases, once again, and trials, hearings that have taken place, and monies that have been collected, once again, in the bottom, and money that went to the state in reference to just this year on the new cases that were handled by the court. And again, this is in the number, in comparison, they're less, but because we're still missing 2 months there. And I feel that we're going to surpass that amount. To the state, it's already been surpassed. If you'll take the 5,025 525 in comparison to the 503, I know that we will surpass that only because of the amount that has been deposited. And right behind that, I give you a breakdown, and thanks to Mrs. Wem here, Vicki, she generated a report for me. Down below, it says, requested new part-time position, 50%. What are we asking? How much is this going to cost the county? The base salary is $12,068, plus the FICA MAT retirement, which is $2,359. So for that part-time position, we're looking at $14,427. Now, for the 6-hour position to be increased to 8 hours, we're looking at $41,889. Down at the very bottom, it says part-time position to a full-time, we're looking at an increase of $7,463. I want to make sure that everyone is looking at this page, if you're following me. I don't want to lose you in these amounts. For the new part-time position is the $14,427. So we're looking at an increase of $21,000, if you want to round it off to $22,000, for the increase that I'm asking for the employees, an increase in staff.
So that's an additional 30 hours.
Remind me, Judge, how many people you have working in your office?
Yes, sir. I have 3 full-time and 1 part-time. And one of those 3 full-time is the court administrator. So
Okay.
there's,
Thank you.
yes, sir.
The one part-time judge is a 75, they work 30 hours a week?
Yes, sir, it is. And I'm asking that it be 40 hours a week.
So that person is currently receiving benefits then?
Yes, sir, they are. And that's why it's stated on there, the
Right.
31,000.
So
I noticed
this'll bring-
also the 50% employee would be eligible for,
No,
No.
no, sir, no benefits.
30 hours would, and 20.
well, it just stated here, FICA medical and retirement, so,
So,
Medicare.
okay.
so this request will bring you up to 4.5 employees?
Yes, sir, it would. And I used to have 4 full-time positions when I took office. That was in '03. And then it got trimmed to 3 people, and I was able to get that 6-hour person a few years back. As the cases increased, the revenue increased. I want to also reflect on the warrant roundup because this is where I know that Constable Peterson came before you already on Friday, last Tuesday, excuse me, and asked for an additional person. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, but it pays off. It pays off, and my warrant roundup report is the purple one. Again, bear with me, I don't have mine in color. We ran out of time, and so, okay. Last year, the month of February the 13th, we brought in almost 14,000. This year, it was $22,178.12. And we forgot to add 2 mini warrant roundups that the constable had also done, and that was in conjunction with Precinct 2. Is that correct, Constable? Okay. And then they just had one last week, and that brought in 6,000, was it on Wednesday? Almost, right under 7,000. And so that is not reflected in this report. And the reason I want to point that out is because, as we all know, in order, in business, in order to make money, takes money. And in our case, in order to generate money, we need the staff. We've got cases that are sitting there that need to be entered into the program Omni, which is license gets suspended unless you come in and take care of these cases. And we haven't been able to do some of those cases. We're doing the most recent ones. We haven't gone back 5 years. We started with 5 years back, and we've done those, but we need to go further back the 5 years. And only because when we got the new programs set in our computers, and we went from the program Able to Odyssey, and some of those were not caught, and so we're having to go back and look at those cases to make sure that they get entered as well. But they're sitting there. I'm being honest with you. Because as I mentioned to Commissioner Inglesby, I don't allow the staff to put in comp time unless it's been approved by me, and I've trimmed it down to, because if somebody puts in comp time, that means they're going to take time off somewhere, and that means we're going to have, somebody out. And so I've only given comp time during the warrant roundups and along with when I have truancy court. That's the only time that I allow the staff to accumulate comp time with my approval. And of course now with this new system of no timesheets, rather clocking in, Mrs. Tuttle, along with I and Hortensia, we've been trying to trim that to 15, 20 minutes as much. And I told her, okay, what do we do about those 25 minutes? He says, fire them. That scared me and the staff when we heard that word. If they cannot clock in right on time. But what do? Stand there, and then you've got, 3 clock-in clocks?
There's actually 4
Four?
on the first floor and 2 on the second.
But then you generate a line, which means they're going to get to the office late. And so I've allowed some of them, the ones that have been there longer, to clock in a few minutes earlier just so that they can go open the doors on time. But I know I've presented quite a bit before you. I come from the background of social work. Dr. Brown is here and she can tell you. I put in 15 years and I told my staff, you get their attention, not to be disrespectful to anybody, but I've learned that the quicker you make your presentation, the simpler they're going to hear you, otherwise you'll lose them. And so I hope that I made it as clear as possible, as one of my professors used to say, clear as muddy water. But are there any questions?
Judge, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
The only thing we're given to look, the numbers we've been given from the auditor's office, like I said, there's some differences in them, but I think they're across the board. Are there any things that your office as JP1 that's different from like JP2 because you're in San Marcos? Because all we have to go by is kind of what the revenues that are coming in. Is there anything that y'all do other than that y'all are required to do that they're not required to do?
No, sir. We're required to do the same. I know that they have a lot more cases of the weight and license cases, the traffic. And we're hoping that, that comes to pass here, and that's going to generate money for the county. As I, whispered to the judge last Tuesday, we've gotten some of those from the borderline of Guadalupe County and Hayes County, and those are hefty fines. We're looking at $800-900, and that, some of it goes to the state, but the majority of it goes to the county.
Because, what I'm looking at here is if you put the two JP1s together, the revenues are still short of what 2's bringing in, and you're using, and right now currently we're using 6 1/4 employees between those two, 2.5 and 3 3/4.
Now, if you're comparing the magistrate, Judge Prado, and I
said if you combine those two together,
Okay.
They're still less than what they're bringing in precinct 2 with 4.
And that's the license and weight.
Okay, that's what I'm trying to get
And
at.
those cases are totally different. Civil, you've got to have. Here, there's a lot more paperwork involved with lawsuits. where
And that's what I was
traffic,
trying to get the
you know, you can
clear
even do that online, take care of your fine, take the class now online. There's so much that can be done online now, and where some of these cases that we hear cannot.
Okay.
But that's a very good point that you've made, sir.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
So,
And we tried to keep down the information, but I wanted to have everything before you. I didn't want you to ask me a question that I wasn't going to be prepared to answer. And
No, this is very helpful. We'll ensure that we make sure that we have apples to apples as we're looking at this, because it makes it, particularly across the board, looking at all your JP colleagues and all the constables, it's a big difference.
okay.
I was just looking, Michelle had given me a copy of the June report. It's for JP 1-1, but I assume these are all similar. And roughly half of her total collections went to the county. So if JP 1-2 is the same, half of 585 would be close to 300, which is what we're budgeting in general fund. I think the difference may be that money going into civil court building fee, courthouse security, she's showing on her information that to be county money, and it is. It's not going in general fund.
No, sir, that's totally different. Those are different amounts. No, sir. Is that correct?
Judge Cobb?
No, I was just adding to what Bill said, that a lot of that is also monies that go to the state.
Yeah, there's state, there's sheriff, some of them stay in the county. And she may be including that in the county amount, because the county is like 2/3 of her total collection.
I didn't cover that. There's a journal back here, and I'm glad you pointed out, and it says receipt by journal, by fund, and fee code. It's on here, and let me see what color is that. I want to say it's green. And it shows here at the bottom how much went to the county, how much went to the constable's office. Here, Buda, Kyle, it's broken in this receipt journal. And the amounts that I've given you come from that as well. So, but hopefully by next year, Mr. Herzog, we can meet with your office and we can crunch numbers and do, you know,
Hopefully
as
we can do it
simpler as,
Maybe we can do it in the next couple of weeks.
okay, and come back.
because then we're really short on our estimate for the revenues if these numbers that the judge gave
I was
us.
gonna ask Judge Cobb if, you know, I think the auditor's office needs to get with, and maybe Lon from your office, Judge, and maybe Jeff McGill, because maybe there's something with our computer system here as well, I don't know, but get with the JPs, as y'all know, meet regularly together, and get the constable and sit down and come out with one answer to present to the rest of us, because it's we're not talking about a couple $1,000s, I mean, we're talking about.
And this is double.
Double. Now, excuse me,
Yes,
the
ma'am.
JPs are meeting Friday, so,
Okay.
and this is over at Palmer's Restaurant at 11:30, so if somebody wants to come and meet with all the JPs, we'll be there, and I know Mr. Weber is going to be there because we're discussing one of
Okay.
the issues with CAFIUS. And before I forget, gentlemen, I totally forgot to put myself in the budget. I'm asking, in the sense that everybody else asked for a percentage of an increase, and I thought I had to, but I'm asking the same amount for myself as Judge Smith and Judge Cobb, excuse me, Cable. I apologize, sir.
Okay.
Okay, so if, we'd like for all the JPs to be at the same.
Yes.
And I just forgot to put myself in the budget.
Would-
Thank you. If there are no other questions,
Would y'all consider Friday, maybe?
I will let Judge Cable know, if you see him also mention to him,
Yes, ma'am.
that maybe
I
perhaps.
think Judge
on
Cable
Fri-
was out of town when I called yesterday. I don't know
Okay.
when he plans on coming home, but he usually doesn't miss that meeting. So
Correct.
I'm sure Judge Cable will be back before the year.
If not Judge Smith, Judge Smith definitely will be.
But it's really, we can't do our job up there if we don't get that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's one of the problems countywide. I mean, when I look at judges' reports, it is as close to gobbledygook, because they give me one number and Odyssey gives me another number, and, you know, it's like these warrant roundups. Some JPs have a lot of outstandings, some have almost none, and they tell me the reason is because they work them as they go along, and so they don't have any outstanding that they have to worry about. So there's a lot of efficiency we're missing here, because the only number we can go on is the one that is in the auditor's office. It's supposedly a real number. Is there a problem between the deposit slips and your numbers?
It's all reconciled, audited.
I thought that's what you would
If
call
there's
it,
more money
auditor.
there, Judge, you better find out where it was deposited. It's not here.
So do you feel these numbers are accurate then?
Yes, I got year-to-date. But we
Okay.
can see- I think it's just terminology and word changes.
Okay.
It could be.
It may be in another account under another number, and
All I'm looking at is what does the general fund that you have to use.
And that's what we're
revenue
concerned,
by.
and that's what concerns us.
And this is pulled out of the program Odyssey that we paid, and I won't remind you how much we pay for that program, but this is where we obtained that.
Well, that's why I
info.
thought Jeff may be handy in that discussion as well, because there's something cross.
well, there's a problem in Odyssey of report generation. We all know that. I mean, a report that's inaccurate is a worthless report. As a matter of fact, it's more confusing than.
That's right, Judge.
You know, but we need to know where the money is and where it's going and all of that, so we can track it. Because that's the only way we can really set a budget, is to know how much money's coming in, therefore we can know how much we can spend.
Right.
But I would encourage y'all on Friday, auditor's office and the JPs to get together, because we got several issues. Michelle, would you attend that meeting?
I think my Friday's booked right now, Judge.
Okay. Well, I'll be in school in San Antonio, so I won't be there either, but
You probably need the treasurer too. She does the breakdowns of the revenue and sends out the reports.
I actually will be at a regional meeting in San Antonio.
Could somebody from your office speak intelligently about that stuff, Michelle?
Yes. John Brittany's schedule.
Oh, good. Brittany would be just fine, so,
And I'll relay the information to all of the JPs.
okay.
Thank you.
And the constable, or at least a couple of them.
Counselor, would you call Perry Mason and have one of them there too? So who's
Perry Mason?
who from the DA's office is going to?
Oh, Mark Kennedy?
Fred Weber? Okay.
Is that who he's talking about?
Yeah, well,
Okay, all right, we'll leave it alone, Judge. Thank you.
thank you, Your Honor. Appreciate it very much. Okay,
Thank you, Judge.
thank you. Whom else do we have there, Vicki?